Page 16, Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmianu el ham yuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem tiferet v'chalila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikorcha habrucha, Arosh mekedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshavatila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hidoreri, Kiva orech uri, shir daberi. Kavod Adonai ala hikahika. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'v'tola, Toch emuneh am segula. Boi chala, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. It is good to be together, even if only virtually, to make Shabbos together, to celebrate, have Oneg Shabbat, Shabbat joy, and Shabbat Menucha, Shabbat rest. The Lecha Dodi, a favorite prayer, a favorite tune of mine, is part of the Kabbalat Shabbat service, Kabbalat welcoming Shabbat, really welcoming the Sabbath bride. And the sages went out in the fields outside of Savat to actually welcome the Sabbath bride out in the fields. So I thought I would read one more psalm from the Kabbalat Shabbat service. It is Psalm 99. Adonai enthroned on cherubim is sovereign, people tremble, the earth quakes. Adonai is great in Zion and exalted above all peoples. They praise your name as great and awesome. God is holy, mighty ruler who loves justice. It was you who established equity, you who worked righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt Adonai our God and bow down to God's footstool. God is holy. Exalt Adonai our God and bow toward God's holy hill. For Adonai our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtakavu laharkadsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 22, which will lead us into the, no, we won't. We will continue with lighting Shabbos candles, the blessing for which is on page 224.
mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
I was so entranced by Kabbalat Shabbat, I almost forgot the candles. So now we can move forward. Chatzi Kaddish on page 22 will lead us into the Baruch Hu on page 24.
Yitkadav, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma Divarach Yirutei, V'yamlich Malkutei, B'chayechon, V'yomechon, Uv'chayetechu Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Bagala, Uvisman Kariv, V'imru, Amen. Yeheshmei Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Olam Me'amaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'or, V'yitroman, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kodesha, Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, V'nechemata, Damiran Be'alma, V'imru, Amen. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed. Hamevorach, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed.
Service continues the bottom half of page 27. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back or cross over? El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimlok Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Amari V'Aravim. Page 29. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Ve'avtecha la tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema, page 30.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed.
Hafta, page 32.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol וברכו מאודיך, וחיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך. ושבתם וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך, ובשעריך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך. וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך, ובשעריך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Continue the bottom half of page 35. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace, and our nation shall be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea from Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea, Micha Mocha, page 36.
Micha Mocha, Oilim Adonai. Micha Mocha, Nedar Bakodesh. Nora, Nora, Tilot, Tilot, Ose, Ose, Fele, Fele, Nora, Nora, Tilot, Tilot, Ose, Fele. Malchutecha uvanecha, Bokeh Yemei Moshe uMiriam. Zeli, Anu ve'ameru. Adonai, Adonai, Yimloch, Yimloch, Le'olam, Le'olam, Va'ed, Va'ed. Adonai, Adonai, Yimloch, Yimloch, Le'olam, Va'ed. Yael
Adonai Yaakov, Gdilo mi'adazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Amen.
Continue, bottom half of page 39. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth, prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Ushmor tzeitenu v'yemlinu shalom yata v'yad olam, Baruch atah Adonai, Aporei Sukkot Shalom, Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
Amen.
Prayer for Shabbat V'Shamru, page 40.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam. B'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam. Uvayom hashvi, shafat vayinafash, shafat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'doratam b'rit olam.
The meditation on page 130 leads us into the Amidah on page 132.
Anananananana Adonai, anananananana svatai tiftach, anananananana ufi yagid tehilatecha. Anananananana Adonai, anananananana svatai tiftach, anananananana ufi yagid tehilatecha. Anananananana Adonai, anananananana svatai tiftach, anananananana ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor HaNorah, Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zoher Haseh V'imahot, U'mevii Gula Livnei Bneihem, L'man Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah.
134.
Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei Metim Ata Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emnato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha B'Geverot, U'Midom Elach, Melech Memid U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot L'Metim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMetim.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Complete the remainder of the Amidah silently. The words on the page from 140 through 153 are the words that are in your heart this Shabbat.
At the bottom of page 152, Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. May the one who makes peace above make peace descend on all of us, on all of us, and Israel. Let us say Amen. Oh, say Shalom, b'mromav, b'yaseh say Shalom aleinu, on all of us, and Israel. Let us say Amen.
Continue now with our Torah service, page 196.
Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'devar Adonai b'Yerushalayim, Baruch shenata Torah, Torah, Baruch shenata Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai iti, u'neromama shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura, hatiferet ha'netzach v'ha'od, ki hu b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki hu b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai ha'mamlacha, v'min na'aseh lecho kadosh.
Our Torah portion for this week is Vayishlach from the book of Bereshit, book of Genesis. And it's a continuation of the long story of Jacob and Esau. So to review, to get us up to this point in the Torah, if you recall, two different versions of a story where Esau loses his birthright to Jacob. Essentially one where Esau comes in from the fields from hunting, hungry, and readily gives up the birthright. The other being where, with Rebekah's aid, Jacob tricks his father Isaac into thinking it's Esau as the elder and gives him the birthright that way. They separate at that point for 20 years, and we are at the point in the Torah where they're going to meet up again. So the night before their meeting, Jacob sends messengers ahead with gifts. So this is presumably to appease Esau. And Jacob has some worry, valid worry, about the need for appeasement based on both his own past conduct and his deceiving his older brother, and that he also gets word that Esau is coming to meet him with 400 men. So he thinks Esau is ready to do battle. And according to the rabbinic interpretation, Jacob is really humbling himself in approaching Esau, sending messengers ahead with gifts, and also that Jacob, when he does finally meet up with Esau, addresses him some 8 times as my Lord. So there's what we would refer to as a machloket, a significant debate or disagreement over whether or not Jacob took the right approach here. Was Jacob right to humble himself before his older brother and be apologetic, or did he respond to power with weakness and only encourage further degradation of himself? He certainly incurred no harm from Esau in this moment, and in their meeting, they reconciled. But at the same time, this is the end of the relationship, really, with the decision made by Jacob to go their separate ways, never to see each other again. So query as to whether or not, notwithstanding a fairly positive outcome, seemingly, for Jacob, was Jacob really comfortable with his response of appeasement? That's why he decided not to go with Esau further? Jacob will go on in the remainder of his life with further tragedy and respond in a somewhat weakened state throughout the rest of his life. So also we question whether or not Jacob's response in this point signified an ongoing weakness to come. I don't have a firmer sense of the right or wrong of the response. I do place the Jacob-Esau reconciliation meeting within the context of our present state of polarization, however, a time of tribal loyalties in which appeasement and compromise are in short supply. The target of our respective ire seems to be more people-directed rather than whether we can move policy or whether we disagree with somebody else's viewpoint on policy. Much of the discussion is divided between whether we can heal from the animosity or whether we make progress in achieving a more just, equitable, and fair approach to correct the ills of our society. Do we need to heal as a people, in other words, or do we just work on policy? And if we can take any lesson about the Jacob story and the opportunity for real transformative change, I actually don't think it comes so much from his encounter with Esau. To treat Esau with aggression, as some of the rabbis suggest and recommended that he should have done, is to assume Esau is an enemy. This perspective is held in rabbinic literature, in Talmud and Midrash, and I think somewhat unfairly. I don't read that sense of Esau in the story, and notwithstanding there is some historical Jewish aversion to the rugged hunter type that is represented by Esau, ultimately I don't see him as an aggressor or worse, an enemy in the story. Dr. Ora Horn-Prauser says that her sense is that Esau was afflicted with ADHD, and so his knee-jerk response in giving up the birthright out of hunger was indicative of that, and also the fact that he doesn't hold a grudge and forgives Jacob as easily as he does, and that the anger that he had kind of came and went pretty quickly. But the real transformation for Jacob, I think, takes place the night before his encounter with Esau, where in a dream he wrestles with an angel of God and comes out of the experience with both a limp and a new name and a blessing, that of Israel. It is in the hard work of wrestling with God and the angel of God and with his own conscience that Jacob transforms himself and the Jewish world going forward. His dream is emblematic of the potential of all our dreams, to imagine beyond what is to what can and should be. He imagines a better version of himself. He represents what a better world, the world within Israel, figuratively speaking, as in a more promised land. His dream is simultaneously one of strength and sacrifice, the strength of his willingness to wrestle, and the sacrifice of the limp he will have for the remainder of his life. Along with this is blessing, the blessing of carrying the name of Israel and the promise of a better future for the Israel that will follow. So to make progress in our world and bestow blessing, we all need to make sacrifice, to give up something of ourselves to improve the life of others and improve our country and improve our world. It is the difference between spending our energy focused on trying to change hearts of those who refuse to hear and working for others, and in that way transforming ourselves and our world. We'll now chant a little Torah. The Torah Blessings are on page 200.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך,
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
אמן.
Amen. ויאמר שלחני כי עלה השחר ויאמר לא אשלחך כי אם ברכתני. ויאמר אליו מה שמך ויאמר יעקב ויאמר לו יעקב יאמר עוד שמך כי אם ישראל כי שרית עם אלוהים ועם אנשים ותוכל.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Now come to the time in our service when we think about those who can't be with us due to illness. We wish them Rufuah Shlema, Rufat HaNefesh, Rufat HaGuf, a complete healing in both spirit and body. The Mishnah Barak prayer is on the top of page 203.
Sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
As the Torah is read, we continue with V'zot HaTorah, bottom of page 203.
V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael, al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. La 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 la. La 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 la.
And we say our Torah is an Eitz Chaim, a tree of life. Kila Kach Tov leads us into Eitz Chaim, page 206.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba, v'tocheha me'usha deracheha darchei noam, v'chol tivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva Chadish Yamenu, Chadish Yamenu, 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 Kekedem.
Prayer for a better world, Aleinu, page 214.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל העולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגוב ומרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכי בשמיים ועל הארץ ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, אין עוד.
Middle of 2:16.
ונאמר אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
In anticipation of Mourner's Kaddish, if anyone is observing a Yortzeit or wishes someone's name to be remembered, they can put it up in the chat. This coming week, I'm observing the Yortzeit of my mother, Rosalie Alpert, Rachel Bat Eli Vibacha. Anybody else observing a Yortzeit coming up in here? Okay, Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, page 221. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Ve'alma divrach hirute v'amlich malchute b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayed v'chol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'imru Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olameo maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha b'richu le'la min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mrumav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say
Amen.
some thank yous. Always for wonderful music. We thank our music director, Laura Steinell, to Brendan Howard, Karen Ingebretson. Thank you so much for beautiful music, beautiful in sound and beautiful in spirit. To our friends here at All Souls, from whence our live stream comes, for their generosity of spirit over these many years that we've shared space. We are so appreciative to Mark Gibbons, our technical director for our live stream, to Andrea Johnson, the audiovisual engineer, to Anthony Edwards, the director of music and worship arts here at All Souls, and my friend and colleague, Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons, the senior minister here at All Souls. Coming up on the Kolami calendar, tomorrow morning at 9:30 will be study via Zoom. As I've told people recently, I look forward to the day when you'll be back at our house and we can fill you full of coffee and pastries and whatnot. Until then, you're going to have to bring your own coffee and pastries. But we will be continue our studying. We started in our last study session of angels in Judaism. Fascinating, wonderful conversation and discussion. So we're looking forward to that. Next Friday is a time on our calendar we always look forward to, Shabbat Hanukkah. So this will be via Zoom, and each of you should bring and have at the ready your own Hanukkahs, your Hanukkah menorahs. It'll be the second night of Hanukkah, so be at the ready when it comes time to light candles. We'll start the evening with the family experience at 6 p.m. and that'll follow with our worship for Shabbos Hanukkah at 6:45. For worship, one other thing. So we have and we continue to do weekday morning services from 8 to 8:15. And when I say to 8:15, I don't mean 8:16, I mean 8:15. Sometimes even a little earlier if I'm really kicking it. So just to know that as I announced my mother's Yortzeit coming up this week, you need a minyan. You need 10 adult Jews to say Mourner's Kaddish. And so, which we struggle to get in the mornings. And what we're going to hopefully do, and there'll be an article coming out in the newsletter either this week or the following week, kind of explaining kind of how it all happens. But we would love, particularly on a day when somebody's observing a Yortzeit, and wants to recite Mourner's Kaddish, that we get our 10. So we're going to try and find a mechanism by which we can kind of put that information out there. There's also a mechanism by which anybody can kind of send the dates of your sites that you observe back to us, and we can get them on a kind of a group calendar. But this is really a nice mitzvah. It's important to help others honor memory. So, and it kind of hit me as my mother's yard site was coming up. It would really nice to have a minyan this week. It's the morning of the 10th, actually, and be able to say Mourner's Kaddish. But then I said, it'd be nice not just for me, but for everybody who's serving a yard site. So hopefully we will get that going. Book club and or meditation coming up this month?
I think we have a book club. I think it's a week from this Tuesday, and it's The World to Come by Dara Horn. It's a really good book. I started it. I'm about a third of the way through. It cranks by quick.
Very good, very good.
And meditation on Sunday, December 20th.
Wonderful, wonderful. For social justice opportunities, Pat Clinton is our social justice chair, so you can contact her if you want to get involved in any of the things that we've got going, either with Moore Squared, Metro Organization for Racial and Economic Equity, or some of the things we do with Martin Luther King School. Just had a successful coat drive. We are still collecting grocery sacks for migrant farm workers, and that has gone wonderfully well as also. And the garden things, even in the winter, things happen in the garden. So Steve Sacken and Linda Sacken still heading up that effort, and there is never a wrong time to go out to the garden. So with that, and if there's no other announcements, if I didn't miss anything, we will do Kiddush and Motzi. Vayihiver vayivoker yom hashishi, vayichulu hashamayim ve'haaretz v'chol tzevam, vayachol Elohim bayom hashvi malakto asher asa, vayishbot bayom hashvi mikol malakto asher asa, vayavarech Elohim et yom hashvi, vayikadesh oto, Ki hivo Shabbat mikol malakto, asher bara Elohim lasot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodesho be'ahava ratzon hinkilanu. Zikaron l'maseh v'reheshit, ki hu yom tehila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol amim, V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. To everybody, a Shabbat Shalom. May it be a Shabbat of joy, a Shabbat of menucha, of rest and peace. And everybody, please be healthy, be safe. And again, we're so glad that you joined us for our service tonight. Shabbat Shalom.